Hey everybody, this is Retro Challenge Gamer, and we are come to the last few videos of this massive tier ranking project I took on for myself. And as you can see by our ranking list, we're gonna hit up some extra rows here in a little bit, and I'm gonna have to zoom out and restructure the old view all over again. So we'll see how it goes through. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting picks, choices, rankings, and stuff, and I hope I've been keeping you entertained with some of my opinions and stuff, and how I came to those conclusions where I placed some of these tracks. So moving on ahead, we have the Lightning Bolt Cup. She has gone to bed at this point, my Mrs. Retro Challenge Gamer, and we're recording this at about later in the evening. And she said, well, before she goes to bed, she says, do the Lightning Cup, and then I'll deal with the Flower and Crown in the last two videos. I'm like, okay. So we're gonna start with Tick Tock Clock, which is a DS track, which is one of the last two, and I did not make the time. This is actually a little bit more of a difficult track overall, so let's discuss it as we go along. So Tick Tock Clock, aesthetically, is an amazing reboot. From what I'm understanding, is probably a simplistic track from its original source game. I like the fact that it takes place inside of a clock, and you have the opportunity to take care of some of the tricks and jumps and everything by actually going on the hands of the clock. I think there's two instances where that happens. And then of course, you have the swinging pendulums of like grandfather clocks and everything. Then you have this neat area, which I completely totally missed the overall gliding section if you go off the boost pad, which changes, I think, every single lap. And then you get at some crazy tight 90-degree S-turn here. And then if this clock hand actually works with you, which normally it never does, you can actually take it and skip off towards the end and maybe eke out an additional spot in front of like first place or something. So in terms of just overall layout, it's a fun type of figure eight sort of course. I mean, look at it. It's basically a figure eight, but it gives enough variety and change to each part of the track that it never outstays its welcome. This is a fantastically designed track with a lot of gimmicks, a lot of stuff to entertain you and keep you occupied for its entire runtime, all through 3 laps. The only thing I think it kind of fails at, unfortunately, is probably this last section right here with the 90-degree S-turn and then into the final section to the actual finish line. But outside of that, it's fantastic. You got the big clock to start with options. You go either straight through the clock or around the sides. And then you get this small little 90-degree turn where it's both ends and begins with the pendulums. And then you turn into another big set piece of the whole thing, which is the gliding section. Or if you want to take the cogs, you can trick off of every single one that has an arrow as you get off. And then the final S-turn, and then again, see, the arms don't ever work with me. I don't understand. I can never use that shortcut. And then you can take either side of the gears if they're headed your way into the finish line. So altogether, this is a very compact, very crazy, active track all throughout. I don't think I have anything really negative to say about it. However, for me, playing on it, I don't think it's the best of the best. I really don't. But I don't think it's average either. This is a fantastically designed track and a remake of a previous DS course. So now it's a matter of figuring out where exactly along this line I find it fun. I want to say it's probably up here in this range, around Electrodrome, Rainbow Road, Coconut Mall, and everything. It's definitely funner than Shroom Ridge, but I gotta figure out where exactly it's gonna be. I guess I find Electrodrome funner just because it's easier to make the turns and everything, and there's less stuff stopping you, but it's still a fun track overall. Rainbow Road, I think, is just interesting all throughout. It's sort of a checkpoint course, which I like better overall. And Coconut Mall, I think is yeah, I do like Coconut Mall more than I do Tick Tock Clock. So Tick Tock Clock is gonna go right there on the top row of everything. And I think that's a good place to put it. And I actually have to adjust my view yet again. Does that work out? Does that look good? I think it does. Okay, as I said, it's going to get very dense in looks here, trying to see everything. Like, you can barely see the top one now. So I may have to shrink the overall look of the text. So give me a moment. Okay, so how's that look? Is that better? Is that better? I think it is. I think it is. So we're going to move on before I make any more further changes and extend my recording time to the next track and the Lightning Cup, the 3DS Piranha Plant Highway. Where's the 3DS courses here? Okay, we're down to one more of this one as well. Dang, fractions of a second. And this is from 2 years ago because I still have the ancient tires on, not the Triforce tires. I could probably get a better time on this, but I just don't feel up to it, honestly. So this course is fantastically designed. So let's walk it through from beginning to end. Obviously, you're going to go into some pipes. This is basically you going into the underworld, like World 1, 2 or something like that. So you're going to go into a pipe initially, and basic sewers so far with a big piranha plant. That's kind of expected. Following the river road all the way down, some mushrooms in there. And then you get to a nice little multi-layered section, which honestly doesn't make sense in the long run, I guess. And then a little bit of a sharp S-turn. And then down into the river portion of the segment. So this is the more exciting portion as you go through a nice slow burn curve here with the... I think the pipes on either side change current from lap to lap to lap. So the current was blowing right, and so I think the next time it should be blowing left. And then you dash out to the top here. Very hard S-turn, which I always just skip through with a mushroom. There's no reason to take the S-turn, because you're bound to have someone with an item that just shoots past you and takes first place in front of you. But overall, this is a tightly designed track. It's very difficult. I won't lie. These turns are very unforgiving. Like this one coming up right here after this next turn, after these question blocks. Or actually, they're used up question blocks. Someone already punched them. So, but yeah, this is definitely... That was a hard turn. I remember struggling so hard trying to get that right. And then this is sort of like a little reprieve almost, as you run through this and avoid the piranha plant at the end. And then you have a nice little spectacle jump, and you're at the end with a couple mushrooms. So in terms of gimmicks, there's a lot here. There's water, there's piranha plants, there's, you know, water currents towards the end, there's Goombas. There's a lot to love here. I gotta say this is one of the better designed tracks, and it does keep your interest throughout, despite this section right here. I don't really feel that section very much. I just feel like it's kind of just there. I don't see the purpose of it, especially if you fall down to the lower level. I guess if you miss hitting the blocks, you fall down to the lower level, and it penalizes you because you're that little bit slower. Hey, yeah, see, the current was now blowing right this time on the third lap. But yeah, this is a very exciting track. Very hard to get right, though. This definitely requires a lot of practice, for sure. So let's discuss where I'm going to place it. Piranha Plant. It's definitely not average. Absolutely not. I think I would have more fun on it than Dragon Driftway. And Sydney Sprint, as I said, is another variation of it, but just more fun. So do I find it funner than Shroom Ridge? Or Tick-Tock Clock, for that matter. Now I'm considering Tick-Tock Clock now. Good lord. And we just did that one recently. This is a hard decision. I'm going to put it right here in front of Shroom Ridge, just for the mere fact that it does change things throughout the track, and it's not just a singular road with a bunch of cars you have to go through with just some turns and everything. So it does have variety as you go through it, and I think that makes it win out in favor of Shroom Ridge, but I don't think it beats Tick-Tock Clock. So it's at the upper end of very good tracks, absolutely. So, moving on to Grumble Volcano. We are going to actually see how awesome I did against Yuya. All right, let's watch while I go change the numbers here on the Wii numbers. Grumble Volcano is interesting in that it's the same thing all 3 laps, but the environment changes around you every single lap. So the first lap, it's the most composed, it's the most structurally sound track to go on. The volcano hasn't actively started erupting and crumbling apart in front of you. So I do love the visual aesthetics of this cave. I don't think you see this sort of design anywhere else in the game on any of the other tracks. So I do appreciate for what this cave was trying to do. And then you go out into the lava fields here, and then you have some multiple choices of where to go. You can, take the right path, which leads into the left path, so 2 jump boosts there. And then you have choices again. You can go left, you can go right. I'm honestly not sure which one's faster, I think there's a shortcut off on the right side, which I didn't find out until recently on a world record holder, that takes you straight, like a straight shot into the finish line. It's a little bit rough though, because you have to go on those dark patches of asphalt or basalt or whatever, which does slow you down a little bit. So usually I guess you need a mushroom to get through there. But as you saw, there was shaking and everything. Oh man. But in terms of fun, I don't know. If I'm just playing it casually by myself on a lower CC cup, I can have some fun on this track. Absolutely. I can definitely admit that this is a superbly designed track. No question. With the amount of choices you have, the shortcuts, the multiple routes, the way it changes, because now you see that more parts have fallen into the lava. This part's even harder to get through because the S-turn has less wiggle room to make mistakes. Definitely a fantastically dynamic track as you go through it. But in terms of fun factor, playing this competitively, I just have no fun playing this thing. This is the case of having too much gimmicks and stuff to add to your novelty. Because novelty, going around in an exploding volcanic lava field, is really novel. But gimmick-wise, with the enemies and the falling platforms and the crazy turns and everything, I just feel like this is a little bit too hard of a track. This is definitely one of the hardest tracks in the game to get right, to actually be good at. So I can't say it's an average track, because it isn't. It is not an average track. It's superbly designed. But the question remains, do I enjoy myself playing it? That's the thing, and that's the problem. Because very good will play is what I put on the left side there, right? Very good will play. But I've just been mentioning through most of the track here that I don't like playing it. But it's not average. So where does that put the course? That's the trouble spot right there. And honestly, I think I'm going to have to put it at the top of average. It's like Moonlight Highway. There's just a couple changes that could have been made to just push it over the edge into the very good category. It's like right there on the cusp. Just a little change. You could have had it. But I don't mind playing on it. If it's selected, I'll play it. I won't do it of my own volition. How's that? Okay? So I definitely know that's probably a hot take, because I know that's a fan favorite for a lot of people, especially the remake. The remake apparently has overhauled this track leaps and bounds by far. So then back to the final one, Rainbow Road. I got something to say about this. Rainbow Road, Nintendo 64, which, dang, oh, slivers of a second. Oh my gosh, you see that? That is insane. I was so close, and I still beat out the top time there. And that is our last N64 track, actually. Look at that. So let's see how well we beat out the Metal Mario time trial. So this Rainbow Road, I know, is a fan favorite of a lot of people, especially those with rose-tinted glasses who played the original Nintendo 64 version, which had you going through this entire track 3 times in a row. It was like this 6-7 minute marathon slog to get through this Rainbow Road in its initial incarnation. I do know that. But they changed it in Mario Kart 8 to more of a checkpoint track. So they took the one long route track and they made it into a singular 3-lap circuit. You go through each part once. The problem with that is that you don't have many opportunities to recover for yourself if you fall behind. There's not many tricks, there's not many gimmicks. I mean, sure, there's the bouncing chain chomps and the rolling hills that you can use to trick off of, but unless you get some good items or you're good at taking the turns and you're boosting and stuff, if you fall, you're gonna fall hard in this track, and there's very little for you to actually do to recover from that. You're just not gonna recover from a bad fall on this track. There's just not a lot of opportunities. No shortcuts, nothing. The visuals are fantastic, though. I cannot fault it for its visuals. You know, flying high over a city with lights brighten up and everything, and the fireworks and the train flying everywhere. You can't beat that. You can't beat that. This is phenomenal in terms of just spectacle. But in terms of track, I gotta say, this is actually a very, very weak track. And I just don't feel like I get a lot out of it whenever I play through it. there's just not much there. Because let's go back to my qualifications here, okay, in terms of how I rate these tracks. Looks, surpasses everything. The looks are amazing. Layout, it's a good solid track. I like how it winds around and everything and good turns and stuff, but there's just no variety to it. It's just basically a straight road. You might as well call it a Mario Tour track and just call it you're driving on roads through a city. There's nothing else to it. Gimmicks, the bouncing chain chomps and the rolling hills. Novelty, it's another Rainbow Road, you know? So it really comes down to the personal option. Fun. Do I find this fun? No, I don't. Is that so wrong? I don't find this fun. And that's going to dictate where I place it. I think it's kind of bad. I don't think it's my pick. I do say it's probably better than Water Park. But for whatever reason, I feel like there's more options to get around players to recover from when you fall behind on Sunset Wilds. So that's why Sunset Wild ekes out a little bit more over Rainbow Road Nintendo 64. Now, I know I'm probably going to get some flack for that, but, you know, I don't care. This is my opinion. This is me without having any rose-tinted glasses for the last 2 decades of Mario Kart. I just feel this is probably the weakest Rainbow Road just outside of the Super Nintendo one, where I really feel they half-baked the port on that one. So we've been through how many Rainbow Roads already? Like 3 or something? I don't know how many more we have left to go, but yeah, that's definitely one of the weakest ones by far. So no more to say about that one. I explained my reasoning. Let's move on to the track here. The Boomerang Cup. This is the cup my son told me, Mini Retro Challenge Gamer told me to do right after he went to bed. So we're going to do that. Bangkok Rush, which is one of the last few tour tracks. And I barely did not make that. So we're going to see how well or how bad I did on this track. I really practiced hard on this track. I know I did. I did my best to try and beat this guy's time, but I could not. So in terms of visual aesthetics, Bangkok Rush is amazing. This is literally one of the most unique tracks in the course. And I do love the layout where it's just got the weird, almost 90-degree turns. You're immediately off into the river here with a little market or something on the side there, and you're just tricking off of boats and stuff. That's fantastic gameplay right there. Then now you're back on the city streets. The one thing I think hurts this course, and which will probably lower its grade, is not its aesthetics, and it's not its overall track layout and everything, because it keeps your interest all throughout. But it's the tight turns. It's the turns that come super fast. Like, all of a sudden, you have to turn left here, and if you're on the right side of the road, that's a hard left turn. These turns come at you fast and furious, and sometimes you may not be essentially prepared to deal with some of them turns. And the visual density of some of this track, like here, this is visually dense. You may not necessarily see those green arrows because there's a lot of other green in the rest of this track, and so they kind of blend in. This is a great set piece, though. I do love going around that structure. I'm sure that has a name. I don't know the name. And taking this amazing shortcut. That is a fantastic shortcut built into the track, and I do love it for that. So now there's the temple and the statue on the right. Now we're back underneath the road again. So yeah, there's a lot of tight spaces in this particular track, and it requires you to really be good on your turn game. Especially right here. This is just a perfect opportunity, this, I think, parking garage, to do a full 90, 100, 280 degree triple boost. And then you're on the market. You're bouncing off the market that I think you just came out of. And then you're back underneath the highway, the freeway there. So in terms of the track looping in on itself, using this as the central node of all 3 laps is just an amazingly designed idea and concept. I love that. And the fact that you have basically different things to look at from place to place is very good for this particular track. Bangkok Rush. Oh, I think it deserves to be up here in the very good category. Yeah, it does. It's a very good design track. It's not best of the best, not by a long shot. But the question is it better than Berlin, Sydney, and any of these in between? Well, I did say it's fantastic, it's great, but the only thing that was dragging it down was the sharp turns. The sharp turns really dragged it down. So I think I'm going to put it here, and I'll explain why. That means it cannot go past Sydney, because Sydney was the better World Tour track. Good visuals, had a central node which it directed you around over and over again through all 3 of its laps, just like Bangkok, but it's more interesting and varied than it is Dragon Driftway, which I had also just as much fun, but not as fun as Sydney or Bangkok Rush. So it has to go in the middle, with the only downside to it being those tight turns. And because of those tight turns that you may or may not see coming because of the visual density of the map and how the green arrows kind of blend in with some of the green of the textures, it really kind of knocks it down below Sydney. So I think that's a good place to put it. What do you think? Anyway. Another DS1. Our last DS1, actually. And this is yet another Mario circuit. Oh my goodness, y'all. This is yet another one. And I did not make it by 3 full seconds. So let's watch how much I failed on this Mario circuit. Okay, layout-wise, look at that layout. That's a fantastic layout. This is more complex than your usual Mario circuit. So I gotta give it props for really expanding the bounds of what you could do with the plain old road in the middle of frickin' nowhere, you know? And I love this transition to a dark wooded forest. This was well needed for this particular track to really stand out from the other Mario circuits. Because as I said, visuals, looks, that's also part of the appeal. And then you got Peach's Castle as you break out of the forest onto the mainstay there and back onto the road. So from dirt to paved road. And then you got these very difficult but very fun triple boost possible S-turn roads. And then you're back into it. You got your predictable obstacles right here with the Goombas that change from track to track. You got a very unique obstacle of fire plant piranha plants, which are very difficult. Those fireballs tend to almost seem like they home in on you. Now, I didn't show it here, but there's actually 2 shortcuts through the trees here on the left side. One on the first turn and one on the second turn, which I just passed. So knowing that they're there also helps this track's rating. This is probably better than the base game Mario Circuit, the one that I gave so much praise for earlier with the big ol', you know, anti-grav drift and everything. So yeah, this doesn't have too many gimmicks. This doesn't have any anti-grav, but in terms of just a solid, simple, basic track with just a couple extra obstacles to keep it interesting and everything, it really sells the environment. Like you're out in the countryside right outside Peach's Castle, and you're... Oh, and the Wiggler. The Wiggler wakes up on the third and final lap and just walks straight down the road. So that's another cool, interesting thing in this track's favor. Now, from what I see online, this is not a favorite track of many, and I'm like, I don't see why. This surpasses most of the other carts or circuits out there. The Toad circuit, the Mario circuit, multiple Mario circuits. I don't understand why this is so difficult to like. Where's the original Mario circuit? Oh, it's right here in the average. So I don't really want to say this is average because it feels like it did more with its runtime, if you will. It's not as complex or dense or fast as Tokyo Blur, but it's way more interesting than Sweet Sweet Canyon. Because you got to think about that, there wasn't any obstacles on the road in Sweet Sweet Canyon. There wasn't anything other than maybe the piranha plants on the side, but you could just avoid those by going straight through the middle of the road. The aesthetics of Sweet Sweet Canyon is nice. Is it better than Los Angeles Laps? No. Nope. I feel like just because of it's not changing, it's not dynamically giving you new things to look at or do as you go through the course, it's just the same thing 3 times around, I can't really put it higher than the 2 tour tracks right there. So it's a basic Mario circuit, but it's a very good, very well designed Mario circuit. One of the best of these 96 tracks. I mean, did I put any other Mario circuit higher than this? I don't think I did. And if I did, I am so sorry. I'll have to readjust my ranking here. But no, that is the highest Mario circuit, and I think it will not change from here on forward. Now we are in Waluigi Stadium for the GameCube. I was an abysmal failure for this. I did not do a good job, and we'll see how bad I did. I could not get some of the strats right. So Waluigi Stadium is similar in nature to the Wario Stadium from, I think, Nintendo 64, but it's less of it, and it's more like a more streamlined version from my understanding. Because I saw a video of Wario Stadium, and that's like a huge marathon slog for all 3 laps. There's a lot to go through for that particular stadium course. This is similar in nature, and it has a nice little shortcut here you can do. Some people actually kind of like to hug the inside wall instead and go that way, but either way. And then you have these half pipes here, which are kind of neat, which I did try and take to see if that would be quicker. See the upper path there? You can take the half pipe and land on the upper path, and you kind of have a little bit of a tighter turn. And then you have this half pipe here that you can take to land on that upper path and get the extra coins that way. So I like the fact that it has multiple routes on the same path that you can take and get additional goodies or coins and stuff like that. So I can appreciate for what it's trying to do on what's basically a dirt stadium track. There's really nothing much to it. Some fireballs, some mechanical piranha plants, things like that. But it's basically what it is. It's like Excite Bike, but in a stadium and with curves. That's really all it is. But I tried doing the upper track, taking the half pipes and everything, which I think are kind of useless outside of trying to get on those upper path tracks. That's like the only reason you would take those half pipes. Otherwise, they're not really that effective competitively for you to really get ahead of anybody. So I don't know why you'd ever take them otherwise. But I took those upper paths, trying to get a better time than what I got on this particular run, and I didn't. In fact, I got a worse time, and that was after much practice. So it's just like, it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up if it's actually even worth doing the upper paths. So I just left it alone, and I just did the basic core track here. I mean, it's certainly dynamic. It keeps you on your toes throughout the whole run time. You're never without anything to do. I mean, I guess this stretch of the road right here could be a little bit boring because those piranha plants are not in your way, so you're not having to, half pipe around them. In fact, that would probably be better if they actually came at and completely blocked the road, forcing you to do a half pipe if you managed to hit them at the wrong timing. That would be kind of a better use of the half pipe right there, but instead you're just kind of driving through all boring-like. So it's a difficult track to judge, but I think I know where I'm going to place it. So Wario Stadium, I think it is funner than Donut Plains 3. I'm not a fan of this one. No, I'm not. I just can't see myself picking this one ever. It's not on my list of tracks I have to play whenever I go play with other people and everything. I'll play it if it's selected and everything, but it's just not something that I will personally pick. But I cannot say that it is the worst of the worst, because it isn't. It really isn't, and there's a lot of fans of this particular track, and I know a lot of people are clamoring for Wario Stadium to come back, but regardless, that's where I'm going to put it. It's just behind Excite Bike, because it's similar in nature. Actually, you know what? No. I think it's slightly better than Excite Bike, because it actually does a little bit more with all the trick jumps and the turns and the half pipes and everything. So yeah, okay, so it's Excite Bike, but better, more dynamic, more things for you to occupy your attention with. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick with that. So in the meantime, I'm going to change this look here. How's that look, everybody? Is it more condensed and cramped than ever? I know that Super Mario Circuit 3 is kind of blocked off by the overall logo there, but I don't care. Everybody knows what's there. Everybody knows the piece of crap that's at the bottom right, so nobody cares. So, moving forward to the final track of this video is Singapore Speedway, another world tour, which I was not very good at, apparently. So let's watch how bad I did. So, visually, amazing. I love this track. This is a fantastically beautiful track. I do love the fact that it takes you on a whirlwind tour throughout the entire city, and I don't think it... Actually, it does one repeat. It does one repeat in the main central city, but it takes you on a glorious skyscraper cruise up top here with the riverboat, or with the pool on deck and everything, with the lounging Yoshis and Toads and the Goombas. And then it brings you right back down to the ground level. So it's a nice little woo moment right as the track starts to get your adrenaline pumping and everything. And then you're back to the surface streets. But still, I do love that. Nice brief curve, and you're done. That was like the first track. That was literally it. Up to the skyscraper and back down to the main road. So this is the main road that we took to start the course. So in that sense, it's a little bit boring because there's nothing to occupy you on the road, no obstacles, nothing to trick off of. It's just down the straight thoroughfare. But then you go through, I don't want to say Chinatown in Singapore, but that's what it looks like. Chinatown in Singapore? Please correct me if I'm wrong. and then you go through, it looks like some sort of stadium and some fountains, and then you're back up to another high-rise, but now you're going underneath the skyscrapers. So that's kind of neat. And now you're on to the third and final track. So now you're on this very cool-looking walkway. I'm sure this is a famous walkway in Singapore, but I am not familiar with it. But it looks gorgeous with those little trees and everything, the artificial ones, and then the archways here. This is beautiful. It's a fantastic way to start the third track. And then one last spectacle, you know, woo, straight past those skyscrapers. I think that's like the focal point for the entire track, where you're either on top of it, going underneath it, going past it. You're always going around it at some point, you know? And then back to the main roads. But now we're not going straight down the boring main road this time. We're going right back into the Chinatown in Singapore again. So we're doing this route again because it's a good S-turn. It's a good, tight, compact section of the track that really tests your skills, especially if you're trying to jockey for position. And then, of course, the final shortcut to the end. And you're done. Like, it didn't feel that long of a track at all. It kept your interest sustained through the whole track and everything. However, is it a best of the best sort of track? No. It is not. It is not the best of the best track. So I'm going to take this, scroll back up. I would say it's a very good track. And I honestly want to say it's better than Sydney Sprint. And I enjoy it more than Tock Clock. Yeah, I do. I don't put it past Coconut Mall, because that one has something to occupy your time on every section of the track. But what brings down Singapore Speedway a little bit is, as I said, that one straight section at the beginning and at the middle of the second track, where you're basically having nothing to occupy yourself except going straight down. I guess it could be a little bit more engaging when you're playing with other players and you all have items and you're kind of jockeying for position down that main road to get to the Chinatown section of the track. But as singular or playing it casually, there's a couple downtimes. There's a little downtime on the track, but that doesn't detract it from making it average, not in the slightest. This is definitely a stronger World Tour track overall. So with that said and done, those are our final tallies with how many tracks we have left to cover for the remainder of our videos. And I'm excited. I'm excited to finally finish out this massive tier ranking project and show you my final ranking tier list, and then we'll go over the top 10. So until then, everybody, see y'all later, and stay retro.